Meghan Markle has criticized global leaders and extremely wealthy pharmaceutical companies for not doing enough to distribute vaccines equitably around the world. Broadcasting live at home, Prince Harry and Meghan gave a powerful speech on Saturday at Global Citizen Live in New York's Central Park. The 24-hour live-streamed event calls on global leaders to come up with a fairer vaccine policy as the world continues to struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic. Performances on the show have been held around the world with musical performances by Ed Sheeran, Elton John and Kylie Minogue. Meghan and Harry walked hand in hand on the New York stage. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex called on the world's first countries to donate 1 billion doses of a COVID-19 vaccine to developing countries. Let's fight the epidemic together. "Hello and good evening, global citizens," said Harry. "Look at all of us here, 60,000 strong here in New York City. We're prepared to do what it takes to make it happen." "Is this pandemic over?" he asked a question. "Hi everybody. It is so good to be back here with all of you," Meghan continued. "We know that it feels like this pandemic has gone on forever. We understand this. It is a lot. And some people just get over it and face it. But if people get over it, it will never end. There is so much that we can do today, now, that can get us closer to ending the pandemic, and that is why we are all here. We are here tonight because the most selfless scientists, researchers, frontline workers and public health leaders risk their lives to protect our global community. They are our humanitarian heroes. Since this pandemic started, we've been talking to experts about how we can do our part," continued Harry. "This week, we sat down with independent global health leaders to understand more about how we are moving closer to vaccine equity and ending this health crisis. But we are fighting more than this virus alone. This is a battle of misinformation, bureaucracy, lack of transparency and lack of accessibility. This is above all a human rights crisis. Every person on this planet has a fundamental right to this vaccine. That's a point, but that's not happening. And while in this country and many others you can go almost anywhere and get vaccinated, billions of people around the world can't," added Meghan. This year, the world is meant to reach the goal of immunizing 70% of people in every country, but it is a mistake that so far, so many vaccine supplies have only been made available to 10 countries, rich and no one else. It's just not okay. "We have what we need to inoculate the world," said Harry. "But experts have told us that this is what is standing in the way. They say that many countries are willing to make vaccines at home, but they are not allowed because the super-rich pharmaceutical companies do not share the recipe for them. These countries have the means, capabilities, and workers to start production. All they expect is vaccine intellectual property to be beckoned and vaccine technology to be transferred. And when we see this as a humanitarian crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis. Control of a vaccine that can help save lives shouldn't be in the hands of a lucky few," Meghan continued. Taking over, Harry explains that drugs are being bought and stocked by rich countries and then sent to developing countries, often when they are about to expire, when it is too late. Dosage-sharing commitments are important and appreciated, but this cannot be just a charitable act. It is a fundamental human rights issue. Closing the conversation, Meghan concluded by urging people to think about the millions of vaccines wasted around the world. Meghan said, And finally, in our conversation, experts shared that how vaccines are distributed and to whom should be left to independent international organizations who know exactly where dosage is needed most. Just think about the millions of vaccines that have been discarded this year. It's like throwing away a life jacket when the people around you are drowning. The audience's cheers broke out as Harry held his wife's hand during the final part of his speech, where he called on those who were listening together. Prince Harry added, "My wife and I believe that where you are born should not determine your chances of survival. So, global citizens, we ask you tonight, do you think we should start treating access to vaccines as a fundamental human right? Once we start making decisions through that lens, where everyone deserves equal access to vaccines, then together we can achieve what is needed for all of us." Through their speech, we can completely see that they are fighting to reclaim equal potential rights to vaccines for all citizens in the world. In the face of a major global pandemic, every individual must be aware of the seriousness and responsibility of their own in disease prevention. They do it for all of us, for our sake. However, there are many objections due to the hatred of the couple from the past. I'm annoyed with myself for being drawn into reading about these self-promoting hypocrites. That's it, I'll ignore all future stories about them. They are yesterday's sliced bread, stale and inept, not worth the time and effort to read or listen to their dribble. Out of touch and always late to the party, the hucksters are pathetic. So what do you think about that?